So it's been a year since the first video for my Pontiac G8 GXP came out. And it was a video that really changed my channel. So for its anniversary, it's back for part 2. It's not quite as long as I would have liked because I spent a lot of time driving it this summer instead of working on it. I racked up 5,000 miles and it's become one of my favorite cars, right next to my 93 Typhoon, which is right over there. It's a little camera shy because it's dirty, but you'll get to see it eventually. I got a lot of little stuff out of the way to make it dependable for the summer, and I got the bodywork done. Well, I didn't, but my guys did. So that's kind of a big thing because it tied up the car for a few days. It was supposed to go on one last 1,000-mile road trip right after we got done with the bodywork, but the weather went from 60 degrees and sunny to snowing in one day. Around here, when it snows, they salt, and when they salt, it gets parked. It has no rust on it, and I want to keep it that way. So let's take a look at what I actually did get done on it this summer. The first thing we're going to do is change the radiator and condenser. The condenser has a power steering cooler inside it, and it was leaking. And I figured since I was taking it out, I would change the radiator as just some cheap insurance. So to get the radiator and condenser out, we just disconnect the radiator hoses, pull the AC lines, the power steering lines, the electrical wires to the cooling fan. Then we can take the whole thing out as one big assembly. Bolt the new stuff all together on the floor, and then we'll drop it back in. Hook up all of our lines and hoses. Fill the antifreeze back up. Top it off, top off the overflow. Now we can recharge our AC system. Put the airbox back on. Top off the power steering fluid. Cover back on underneath. Now we're going to change the motor mounts. Both of them were broke. Just unbolt the tops and unbolt the bottoms. Lift up the motor. The broken ones come out a little easier than the new ones go in. So to give myself a little more room, I got to drop the subframe down a little bit in the back. That's what we're going to do right now. Didn't need much, about a ½ an inch was all I needed. Now we're going to put our carpeting back in. We had just thrown our seats in there so we could take it for the safety test. Car got a lot quieter once I put the carpeting in. Got the easiest console in the world to take out. It comes out in little pieces. Most newer style consoles come out as an assembly. Not this one. To get the shifter knob off, all you do is twist and pull. Take off all of our trim. Put our floor vents back in. Put the carpet in. Slide it into place underneath the dashboard. Put the console back in.
The side covers back on for the console. We can put our trim panels and our sill plates on. The rear seat in. I'll put the front seats back in. I do plan on taking these out again and changing the bottoms over. The padding on that driver's seat was a little worn out. So I have the parts car seats, I'll just use those. At least the bottoms. The backs are different because these say GXP in them. Now we're going to change the left rear door handle. Broke on the inside. Pull the door panel off. Switch it out. Just took that off of our parts car too. Put some wiper blades on it, change our headlights. This had HID headlight bulbs that worked about 20% of the time, so we're just going to put our regular halogen bulbs back in. The airbox back in. Now we're going to buff our headlights, clean them up a little bit. Just some compound on a wool pad, then we'll use some polish on the wool pad, and then we'll use a foam pad with some polish. That's all it takes. These weren't too bad. So today I'm going to show you how to pull the door off of a G8. I could straighten it, but there'd be a lot of Bondo down there. And I have a door, so we're going to put that on and then we'll do the body work on the quarter. So the first thing we're going to do is disconnect the wires that are inside here. Then we're going to take the door check off, which is inside there. And then we'll remove the bolts from the door hinges. These have bolts that go in here. I already took them out, so that you can just lift the door up when it's open. You can see inside there. Right now you can't lift it up because this tab here will hit this piece there. So when you open the door, you'll be able to lift it right off. But I'm going to take these bolts off and put this little bracket here on our new door. Because this was a Texas car, so it doesn't have any rust. But the car that the door came off of was from the East Coast, and that pin was a little rusty and I wasn't able to get it off. So rather than try to fight with it, I'm just gonna swap out the hinges. Just makes my life a little easier. So the first thing we'll do is the wires. Just take a pick, get it behind the piece of rubber here, and peel it back. Just fits around this little plastic piece, but now that we got that off, we'll just pull these tabs up. Until it pops out, and then you can just put it back in here. Just to put it back together, all you do is hook up the wires and snap it in. So now you got that off. Pull the plug out, disconnect it, and now we'll go on the inside. Now we're going to remove the door check here, just this bolt right here. But I'm going to share with you a little time-saving secret. Since I have to take the door panel off anyway, I'm going to take these two bolts out after I take this out, and the door check will just drop inside the door. That way I can close the door to take it off. It makes it a lot easier. I don't have to try and fight with it or take it off with the door open. If you don't have to take the door panel off, if you're just replacing a door, say the same color, that's not going to save you any time, so just leave it on there and fight with it. But my door is black, so I'm going to have to paint it anyway. I'm just going to put it on and line it all up. So we'll just take it off and drop it in there. Make our life a little easier. Just remember to put that on before you put the door panel back together. So you can't always just push the door check in after you unbolt it from the body, but they are a pain to push in and sometimes a pain to pull back out. And they do occasionally tend to get in the wrong place when you're trying to put the door back on. So that's why I've started just dropping them inside the door if I can. Drop it down in there. Now I can close the door. So now that we have our door check off and our wires disconnected, we can pull these 4 bolts out. And then the door is latched right now, so we'll just hold the front of it, open the handle, and lift the door off. When I put the new door on, we'll just latch the back and then line up the front bolts and screw them on. To line it up, all I did was realign the old paint marks. Luckily, it was exactly right. There was no adjustment needed. That never happens. And now there we have it. Our checkered cab looking G8, at least for now. But now we know where the body line is supposed to be for the back door. So we'll pull the quarter out to meet it. Okay, so here's the pin, or the bolt that I was talking about. It just slides in there and holds this piece down to this piece. So we used our whole hinge from our original door, got it all lined up on our new door, but now we're gonna paint it. So if you notice, I scuffed underneath it before I put the hinge on, so we'll be able to, our paint will stick. We don't have to try and scuff around it and risk the paint peeling in the little corners and edges and stuff. So that's why I did that before I put that on. But now all we have to do is open the door and lift it off. So the body work is done. Now we're gonna get it all ready for paint, pull the door all apart. The inside of the door has to be painted, as well as the inside of the door jamb in the back. So now just lift the door off. Take the molding off. Take the sill plate and rocker molding off. Take the gas door off. We just loosened up and stuck a 2x4 back there so we can get paint in there. Pull the taillight off. Drop the rear bumper down. All this is done just so we can paint it. Pull the front door apart. This is so I can get the mirror and the molding off. My painter put a little sealer over it so that it's easier to cover. White over white instead of white over gray. He'll sand that all again. Now he's got it all, the door edged and the door opening painted. So I'm going to put it together so you can paint the outside. Putting in those little bolts that hold the door in. Now he's got everything painted. Time to put it all back together. The gas door on, bumper, taillight. Put the front door back together. The tint on this car was really bad, so I'm peeling the tint off the windows. I'll retint it later. Door handle back on. Put the door sill and rocker molding back on. Our door handle back in on the back door. Our window in. Our outer trim. Water barrier. Speaker. weather stripping. I'll put the actual handle in. The molding back on. Door panel back on. I'm going to pull the tint off of this window, or these two windows. The way these windows are designed, the edges are kind of overlapped with the window trim, so it was really hard to get to. So that's why I pulled the window out. Same thing with this one. I had already taken the tint off of this window. It was just the edges where I couldn't get to. So I took the window out to get those edges. So the reason I showed the two different methods to changing the hinges was the first one allowed me to bolt the door on and line it all up, get everything where it belonged. The second method allows me to remove the door and put it back on without having to realign anything. Neither way is correct, so don't think that if you want to do it a different way that it's wrong. It's not. It's what works best for you. Just like the door checks, I'd leave them bolted into the door, I'd unbolt them from the pillar and I'd fight them back into the door, and then when I was time to put them back on, I'd pull them back out, and sometimes they can be a real pain. I've scratched a few door jambs doing that, and then sometimes when you put the door on, they get caught on the wrong side of the pillar. It's just turns out to be a pain. So the first time I tried dropping that door check down in the door, I haven't gone back since. It's just so much easier for me. That's the way I do it. I did it for years before I even thought about doing something like that. Give it a try. You might find out it makes life a little easier. You might have already known. Wish you would have told me. So on this car I still have to replace the drive shaft center bearing. Pretty common problem on these cars. I have to put the rear Brembo conversion on, and I have to do that pretty soon because it's going to need rear brakes eventually. I got to change over the seats and tint the windows. So there'll probably be some more videos of this car eventually. I'd like to say I'd get it done this winter, but I got a lot of other projects, so it might be in the beginning of the spring or beginning of summer before I get to that stuff. But anytime I work on it, there'll be a video. So like the video if you found it interesting or maybe even informative. Share it if you think somebody else might. Subscribe if you want to see more of this car or even my mess of a Silverado build, as well as whatever else I pick up along the way. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.